evening, everyone, and welcome to the NCAA presentation, Empowering Student Athletes and Their Families. This NCAA presentation will be where you'll be informed of the necessary and pertinent information that the current and future student athletes scholar athletes will need. Speaking tonight, and it will be NCAA presenter Liz Donohue. She's an associate athletic director. Thank you for being there at Marist College and NCAA Steering Committee for Athletic Certification. And also with us tonight is motivational speaker, former NFL player and founder of Leader Athletics, New York City, Jeremiah Brown. We also have on the panel Newburgh's very own guidance counselors, Mr. Jason McAllister, Mr. Thomas Hill will be on tonight. Once again, thank you everybody for coming out to this presentation. I would also like to congratulate some of the athletes who have committed next fall and signed a letter of intent. Congratulations and good luck. Once again, thank you all for being here. And without any further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Jeremiah Brown. Thank you.
All right. All right, there I go. All right, technology. Thumbs up. Everyone can hear me. We're good. Everyone can hear me. Cool. Awesome. 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 So I'm really big on gratitude. So Howie, I cannot thank you enough. For allowing me to be a part of such a special moment and opportunity to serve your community. And I'm just filled with so much gratitude. So bear with me, everyone, because I am going to take some time to really pour into you, really dive into why I'm so passionate about the work of primarily student athlete development. And I'm so passionate about this work because of what I've gone through, right? So oftentimes what happens is when you see someone who's successful, if it's a celebrity, if it's an athlete, if it's a politician, if you see someone who's successful, oftentimes what happens is you think to believe that they've always been at that place, right? So oftentimes people look at my life and they're like, wow, you played in the NFL. Wow, you've done amazing things. You've made millions of dollars and you've always been there. But actually I haven't, right? Actually, I'm just going to ask that you just take the time to open up your heart a little bit, open up your ears, because what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to tell you a story of how I became the person that I am today, the man that I am today, the husband, the father, and the educator and entrepreneur. So please be patient with me, because there are going to be times where you're going to be like, man, this dude is intense. And I'm intense because I'm extremely passionate. So if there's a goal that you have, we're going to talk about it today. We're going to talk about it today. So without further
I think he may have just left the meeting accidentally.
Okay, he might have. Okay, we'll give him a minute to get back on. If he can hop back on. If not, we will go directly to Miss Liz Donohue, and then we can go back to Mr. Jeremiah Brown. Okay. Cassie, has he?
I'll keep looking for him in the waiting room. I haven't seen him quite yet.
Okay. So, Miss Donohue, can you begin your presentation, and then we'll go back to Mr. Jeremiah Brown.
Sure, no problem. Hi, everyone. As Mr. Harrison said, I'm Elizabeth Donohue. I'm Associate Athletic Director and the Senior Women Administrator at Marist College on the other side of the river. And I help oversee all the eligibility of the incoming student athletes who come into Marist, who've committed to participate in one of our varsity programs. So I'm going to share some information with you that is pertinent to anyone who plans to participate in college athletics, whether it be Division I, Division II, and there's some separate information for anyone who competes at the Division III level. So regardless of where you end up going, you'll need to know this information. So it's universal. It's not specific to Marist or any school in particular. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my PowerPoint and give you a chance. Can everyone see that? Great. Okay. Okay. So just some things to know, some background information that I'm going to share with you, and as well as all the rules and regulations that go into this. What we're discussing is initial eligibility. So what you're looking for is initial eligibility as a incoming collegiate freshman. And you need initial eligibility in order to practice, compete, and receive an athletic scholarship during your first year at a Division I or II school. And the NCAA is the one that certifies you. And this is all based on the transcripts and the academic information that you've achieved through your high school years. It is designed to prepare you to succeed in college and protects the fairness and integrity of collegiate sports. So one thing that's very important to remember, that you are the college-bound student athlete and you are responsible for your eligibility. There are a lot of people that help guide you through this process and kind of oversee it on the back end, but it's something that you have to take ownership of and have, strong communication with your guidance counselor and your coaches and the people that can help you in the process. It's never too early to start, and you can always jump in at any point throughout your collegiate career. You need to take your high school classes seriously, even as a senior. Even if you sign a letter of intent or you get accepted somewhere, you can't just blow it off, because everything that you're doing is contingent upon your graduation. They will look at your academic information up and through graduation. So you want to make sure you stay serious and focused all the way through the end. We're also going to talk a little bit about protecting your amateur status. So to be an amateur athlete means that you are not a professional athlete. A professional athlete cannot participate at the NCAA level. So there are 4 components of initial eligibility. Some seem very basic and straightforward, but like the first one, you need to graduate from high school. The second is that you're going to complete 16 core courses, which I'll explain, a mandatory test score, and a minimum core course grade point average. I will also explain to you after this some of the exceptions that have been put in place by the NCAA that are in response to the past 2 years or so of dealing with the COVID crisis. But these are the standard components and requirements. So if there's anyone on this Zoom that might be a freshman or even a sophomore, this is what you can expect. These are the rules that you're going to have to expect to follow. The exceptions that have been put in place would pertain to this year's senior class. Whether they make future exceptions, they haven't determined yet. So if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, you would expect that these are the exact rules that you're going to need to complete and follow. So, like I said, straightforward. You need to graduate high school. All incoming freshman college students must have graduated high school within 4 years of their initial start date. The second component is completion of 16 core courses. And you're going to be asking me, what is a core course? What if it's not a core course? What are the differences of the divisions? And I'm going to go through all of that. A core course is a recognized academic course that qualifies for high school graduation in these main areas: English, math, natural science, social science, foreign language, comparative religion, or philosophy. You'll notice courses that are not on here are those such as physical education, any type of elective-based class you're not going to find on here. This approved core courses focuses on the main academic areas of study. And you'll see that some of them have like math, an algebra 1 level or above. That's the minimum level that will be accepted for these kinds of math courses. A core course is also considered to be a college prep course for entrance into a 4-year college, not 2, but a 4-year college. It's taught at or above regular academic high school level, and you must receive credit for high school graduation by taking this course, and it must appear on your official transcript with the exact title, grade, and credit awarded. Again, like I said, certain classes you'll notice were not on there. These are classes that do not qualify as a core course. And this is the exact wording from the NCAA, because some of them seem a little archaic, but this is how they list them. Fine arts classes, any type of driver ed, art, music, physical education, welding. I don't know if anybody's taking welding anymore these days, but if you are, it's not a core course. So just keep that in mind. These are the kinds of courses that are going to prepare you for a world of work or a two-year college school or a tech school, those types of courses. They do not qualify for core course. These are courses that are sometimes taught below the grade level. They may be at a slower pace. They may have less rigor. They are not as academic based as the other courses. Other additional examples are film appreciation, video editing, greenhouse management. And computer science courses are no longer considered a core course. Several years ago, the NCAA took that off. But if they fall under math or science, then they will qualify. Some of you may be taking non-traditional and online courses, and particularly in the past 2 years, this may have become a little bit more prevalent for you. These may fit into core courses as long as they meet this criteria. So again, they're preparing you for academic work at a four-year college. They're comparable in length to the traditional classroom setting. They have to appear on your school's approved core course list, which I'll explain. You have regular interaction with the teacher, and there are some examples there. The type of feedback, the type of interaction would be similar if you were in a classroom setting. The course has to have a definite time period, you know when it starts, when it ends, if it's a semester, a full year, etc. And it would be clearly identified as a non-traditional course on your transcript. So here's the breakdown for Division I. Division I is the highest of the athletic components of the three divisions. It's the most competitive. You're familiar with schools such as the ones considered the Power Five conferences. So the LSUs of the world, the UCLA, the Pac-12 conference, the SEC, in addition to smaller schools. Marist, for instance, is a Division I school. It's a mid-major college, but it is a Division I institution. So it kind of runs the gamut of examples that fall into that. But all of those schools, regardless of where they compete athletically, students entering need to meet this criteria. So again, we talked about core courses. 16 core courses are required at the Division I level. And you'll remember we talked about those main academic areas. And here's the breakdown. You would have to earn 4 units of English, which is pretty standard. You're usually taking a year of English each year of high school. You'd have to earn 3 units of math at an Algebra 1 level or higher. So if you took intermediate algebra, or if you took a pre-algebra, I'm sorry, not intermediate, but if you took a pre-algebra or a foundations of math, something like that, that would not count. It had to be Algebra 1 level or higher. 2 units of a natural or physical science with 1 year of a lab if it's offered. 1 additional unit of any of the above mentioned courses. So an additional English or an additional math or an additional natural or physical science. 2 units of a social science. So that's usually your history classes are in their social studies. Sometimes they fall under psychology classes, anything focused on the social science. And then 4 units of the above mentioned courses. So any of the above mentioned areas, you'll need 4 units of that. Lots of times people are fulfilling this with foreign language courses. They may have taken more than 2 years of social science, so they have additional courses there as well. Another criteria for Division I is that 10 of these core courses need to be earned before the start of senior year. So 10 of the 16 must have been earned by the time you're done with your junior year. And of those 10, 7 need to be in the specific areas of English, math, or natural and physical science. Used to be just get all 16 in by the time you graduated, and then the NCAA decided to kind of put this in effect so that people weren't just, rushing them in the beginning or in the end. Division 2 is a little bit different. They do also have a 16 core course requirement, but the breakdown is different. I've highlighted those in red. So instead of 4 units of English, there are 3, 2 units of math. Again, it's at the algebra level of higher. Remains 2 for the natural physical science. Now there's 3 of the above mentioned courses as opposed to 1, 2 units of social science, and then 4 units of the above mentioned courses. This next section is crossed out because it doesn't apply to Division 2. So Division 2 does not have the 10 core course requirement, and it doesn't have the 10-7 requirement. So for Division 2, it is just get the 16 core courses in by the time you graduate in that 4-year time period. So there's a little bit of the difference between Division 1 and Division 2. And then there's Division 3. Division 3 is the division that participates in athletics that are generally the least competitive. They are offered by schools that tend to be a little bit more academic in nature. So the focus is usually more academic based than athletic. However, it's looking for a very well-rounded experience for students. There's usually not as much travel with the athletics in this division and so forth. Division 3 do not require certification through the NCAA. So everything that I just shared with you with the breakdowns and the requirements, that does not exist at Division 3. The school itself will set their own standards for initial eligibility. And so they decide, the incoming students, if they're able to practice and compete in collegiate athletics. As mentioned, the focus is usually more on academic success while still offering competitive athletics. It's more of a co-curricular, extracurricular opportunity, and with the opportunity to maximize the academic success of the students. So you can still set up a profile within the NCAA Eligibility Center, because you may not know at this point where you're going to end up. You might have your interests in schools that vary on all 3 divisions, or you may think you're going to go one division and end up going another. So you can certainly create an account and a profile through the Eligibility Center. It's just not going to be needed if you end up going to a Division 3 institution. So now there's a couple other things that come into play. Courses taken before high school. Typically, the NCAA is looking at what you've done and achieved during your high school career. If you've taken courses in 8th grade, such as Algebra 1 or Spanish 1, French 1, whatever foreign language, it can count towards the 16 core courses if you've been given high school credit for it. So this is not uncommon. There are many times when a student may take one of these courses. It'll appear on your transcript, your high school transcript. It's an approved course at your high school, and it appears on your transcript with the grade and the credit. So if that is the case, then you've already got one core course out of the way before you've even started high school. After high school, for Division 1, only core courses completed in the traditional 4 years will qualify as core courses. If you graduate high school on time, so that's 4 years from when you started, you have the opportunity to earn 1 additional core course after graduation, but before full-time college enrollment. So maybe you only have 15 core courses. You can use that summer to get to 16. Some people delay their initial enrollment and they do what's called a PG year. So they have the opportunity to earn another core course during their PG year. It doesn't have to be at the high school that you graduated from. It might have been a local college that's offering a course where you take it. Again, some students do a prep year and they go, for this PG year. But either way, if you're earning this core course, you can apply it to the 16 total. Now, with COVID, there are exceptions to this, which I'll share with you. But again, I want to give you the main components so you know, because this will probably revert back to all of this. So again, if you're younger, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, this is probably where it's going to revert back to, and you'll need to know this. So the third component is a mandatory ACT or SAT test score. Both Division 1 and 2 require you to submit a test score, either the ACT or SAT. If you take both, you can submit both. With the ACT, they're looking at the sum of the 4 main areas. With the SAT score, they're looking at the reading and the math score. They're not looking at your writing score. So this test was redesigned in March 2016. And at that point, they reevaluated which scores they would be taking. When you're taking either test, you can use the code 9999 so that the scores are sent directly to the eligibility center. That is the only way that they will accept test scores. They will not accept them from you. They will not accept them on your high school transcript, even if that's the standard practice of the high school to post them there. They must come directly from the testing agency. So you have the opportunity to have it automatically sent, or you're going to have to request them to be sent on your own. Both divisions will use a sliding scale to match the core course GPA with the test score. This is something Division 1 has had in place for a while. Division 2 introduced it back in 2018. Now, again, another exception with COVID is with these test scores. And for students who are entering college in fall of 2022, so that's current seniors, they're not required to have a test score. They're not required to take and submit a score. You can still submit that if you have taken it, but that requirement has been waived because there were, when COVID hit, there were limited opportunities to actually have the in-person testing. But again, it's likely going to get back to the point where it's going to be required, and then you will have had to take a test and submit it. However, the NCAA is evaluating if this will remain a mandatory component. Currently is, but they are kind of looking into it and doing some research to determine if that is something that they want to maintain going forward. So test scores, if you take the SAT, again, as I said, it was redesigned in 2016. It varied from one test to the other. I think at this point, we're at the point now that people are only taking the new test. So you don't have to worry about how they read your test. You could submit both versions of the test, but they would only take different scores from the same version. So that probably doesn't apply to anyone anymore, and not something you have to worry about. Another component is the minimum core course GPA. So the different divisions have different criteria. Division 1, as of August 1st, 2016, they require a minimum core course GPA of a 2.3. So again, the core course is those 16 core courses that you're required to take and submit. The GPA is coming from those 16 courses only. So the GPA on your transcript will look different because that's taking into account your phys ed classes and your elective classes and other classes, that beyond the 16 core course. But the 16 classes, the NCAA will determine the GPA, and it needs to be above a 2.3. For Division 2, it needs to be above a 2.2. And this is how it's calculated. So the NCAA uses a 4.0 scale. It doesn't matter if your high school uses the plus and minus system, doesn't matter. A plus and an A minus are the same. They have assigned a value to each grade that you've received. And you can kind of see the little example here. So someone takes English 9, and let's say it's based on half year. So you get a grade for the first half of the year and a grade for the second half of the year. So if it's that case, then the first half would be 0.5, and that person got an A minus in that first half of the year of English 9. A minus is worth 4 points, and the quality points comes up with 2. English 10, again, it was half year. They got an A, and it's still 4 points. And that also was quality points of 2. So the quality points get added up, and it's divided, all the quality points will get added up over the 16 classes divided by all the quality points will get added up for a total quality point score divided by 16, which is the number of core courses, and they will determine a GPA. And again, it'll look different than the GPA that appears on your high school transcript. This is a little condensed version of the sliding scale. At this point, it had included the new SAT and the old SAT scores and the ACT sum. So if you have a core course GPA of a 3.55, you would need to get a 400 on the SAT in those two areas, or an ACT sum of 37. But if you had a lower core course GPA, say you got a 2.3, you could see that you would have to earn a higher test score. So there's more value placed on the higher core course GPA. The NCAA recognized that what you've done over 4 years kind of holds more weight than one day of a test score, which is why they are now evaluating whether they'll continue to use test scores in the future. And you'll see that below the 2-3 are in red because you have to have a minimum of a 2.3 for Division I. So if you had a 2.0 core GPA, it doesn't really matter because you're not going to meet the standard. Doesn't matter what you got on your SAT or your ACT because you're not meeting that core course GPA requirement. So the initial eligibility process, you're going through all this, you're submitting test scores. You may or may not be submitting, you're submitting your transcript with your core course GPA. You may or may not be submitting test scores. You're working towards everything. The end goal is you want to be what's called a final qualifier, and that's determined by the NCAA, and that is someone who's eligible for athletically related financial aid, otherwise known as an athletic scholarship, eligible for practice, and eligible for competition during your first year of enrollment as a freshman at an NCAA institution. On the flip side, you may end up being a non-qualifier, which is what you don't want. A non-qualifier is someone who is ineligible for all of the above, cannot practice, cannot compete, cannot have that athletic scholarship. So that's really something to pay attention to, because if you are offered an athletic scholarship, you and your family may be relying on that money. That might be the piece that can afford you to go to that particular school. If you're a non-qualifier, you cannot accept that money for the first year. So you would, let's say you were offered a $20,000 athletic scholarship. If you're a non-qualifier, you're going to have to find a way to come up with $20,000 because you're not going to get it through the school. So it's very important to keep that in mind and realize that. This applies to both Division I and Division II. They both have the qualifier and the non-qualifier status. There's also something called an academic redshirt at the Division I level. This is a person who can receive an athletic scholarship in the first year. They can practice in the first semester or quarter if the college is on a quarter system, but they are ineligible to compete for the entire academic year. So the entire freshman year, they cannot compete. After the first semester, the college that they are attending will review what they have done in the first fall semester and determine if they meet the criteria to continue practicing, if they'll be eligible going forward based on the GPA and credits that were earned in the fall semester. At Division II, it's not called an academic redshirt, it's called a partial qualifier. Pretty much the same thing. They have two different names. This person is eligible to receive the scholarship. They are eligible to practice with the team only at the home facility. That's the difference. But they are also ineligible to compete during the entire first academic year. So if you fall into that, it's kind of the midway point. You can get some things, you don't get everything. You will not lose a season of eligibility, which is important to know. But it is, again, based on those components of the core courses, the GPA, test scores, etc. So there's some steps along the way that you can kind of put into place. Like I said before, it's never too early to start. You can, if you know 9th grade going in, one of your goals is to be a college athlete, that's great. You can sit down, tell your guidance counselor from the beginning that this is something that you're working towards and something you want to do. And you should do that so your guidance counselor is aware of what your goals are and can help guide you when you're picking your classes, because you want to make sure that the classes you're picking will fall into that core course requirement. So every high school has what's called an NCAA approved core course list. And the Eligibility Center allows you to go in and select your high school, and it will show you the courses that are acceptable as core courses at the high school. The high school it gets to this point by submitting criteria and information to the NCAA, which they evaluate, and then they'll say, yes, this qualifies as a core course or not. You'll also have the opportunity to see which courses do not qualify as core courses. So when you're making your selection and making your schedule, you'll know exactly what fits in, what doesn't. So as I mentioned before, you can set up a profile page at the Eligibility Center. And then as you go along the way, you can build on your account. That would be the first step. So now you're moving along, now you're in 10th grade. If you didn't have a great first year, you kind of want to reevaluate and speak about, what can you do to improve your GPA and so forth, and what kind of courses are still going to fit into those 16 core course. Again, you can set up a profile page, or you can set up an actual account with the NCAA. A lot of people do create their account either during their sophomore year or right at the end of their sophomore year. By creating an account, you're sharing demographic information with the NCAA. You're also listing the sport that you intend to play in college and where you've gone to high school and so forth. At the end of the year, you're going to ask your counselor to upload a transcript to the NCAA Eligibility Center. So they'll start to get some information on you, some information on your grades. And one of the reasons that people will do it this year is because when you become a junior, September 1st of your junior year, for most sports, you can start visiting colleges. You can start taking what's called an official visit or an unofficial visit. So you might get involved in the recruiting process and coaches will ask you to come visit campus. You have to have an Eligibility Center account to do that. And they have to have a transcript on file in order for you to do that. So again, 10th grade, there are some exceptions within sports. Some have the opportunity to start visits in sophomore year, but majority of them are junior year. So now you're in 11th grade, and if you're getting recruited, it all ramps up. But you want to, again, you have to keep in mind that you have that 10-7 requirement if you're going to be going Division I. So at the end of the junior year, you have to have 10 core courses locked in. 7 of those 10 have to be in specific areas. So this is your final year to make sure you have that locked in to meet that requirement. You want to make sure you're on track. If you're taking the tests, you want to make sure you get that score submitted to the Eligibility Center. You want to keep checking your account, making sure it's accurate, that you've got everything updated in your Eligibility Center account. And again, at the end of the year, you'll ask your guidance counselor to submit an official transcript. So now they'll get a updated transcript for you. And one thing I want to point out, assuming the SAT or ACT rule stays in place, some students will go to a school that's considered test optional for admission. So you don't have to take a test in order to be admitted to the college. But you do have to take the test for NCAA purposes. So you have to keep that in mind. Just because the college you attend may be test optional, at this point, you would still have to take a test in order to participate in collegiate athletics. So senior year, again, you just want to make sure that you're going to have that 16 at the end of graduation. If you retake the test and you improve, you want to make sure you get those test scores in. You're going to request what's called final amateurism. So that is the last piece of the initial eligibility process. When you create your account, again, you're going to indicate which sport you plan to participate in, and you're going to get asked a series of questions related to amateurism. And you'll just answer them based on their sports specific. But then April 1st of your senior year, you're going to go back in and verify the answers or update the answers to the amateurism questionnaire. And that way the NCAA can assure that you are not a professional athlete and that you are considered an amateur athlete. And then after you graduate, you want that final transcript to go to the Eligibility Center. Transcript accuracy is vital. So once they receive your final transcript, they will not take a revised transcript. So, you submit that transcript and it says you got a C in history course, and then you think, I got a B, I really got a B. That raises red flags. So they're not going to accept a revised transcript. You're going to have to work with your new college, the college you attend, to work through a waiver process, which could be long and arduous. So you just want to make sure you review everything with your guidance counselor before that final transcript gets sent. They also must receive a transcript from each high school you attended. So if you attended multiple high schools and the high school you're graduating from has all the information on the one, it doesn't matter. They want a transcript from each high school that you attended. So it will delay the evaluation if you don't provide all of the transcripts. Key points is just reiterating some of the things I've said along the way, that you want to be mindful of the different requirements between the different divisions. Remember that 8th grade courses don't count unless you were receiving high school graduation credit for it, and it must appear on your transcript. Attending multiple high schools means you have to submit multiple transcripts. Excuse me. And only the core course grade point average are used to calculate the core course GPA. So additional courses taken beyond the 16 additional core courses taken beyond the 16 can be used to assist the overall GPA if needed to boost you. And the communication is very important. If your guidance counselor doesn't know what your plans are, you need to let them know, communicate, this is something that you want to do, what your interests are, where where you want to be. Do you want to be in the West Coast, the East Coast? How does that fit in? You might be getting information from your coaches, or if you're involved in club programs, ODP programs, etc., they might be giving you information. You got to share that with your guidance counselor so that everybody knows, everybody's on the same page. Everybody that's working to help you knows exactly where you're at and kind of what you need to meet these goals. This is just a very brief overview of recruiting, because as you go through the initial eligibility center process, you're likely going to be recruited. It will vary. Each student is different, so you might be recruited at varying levels than your teammates. But these are some terms you're going to hear and just some things to kind of familiarize yourself with. The NCAA has certain periods. This is more for the coaches. They have to follow these periods where they can or cannot recruit off campus or talk to athletes. It's on them. However, it's good for you to know, because it's your eligibility that we're working towards here. So dead period is nothing can happen, no contact. They can't reach out to you. They can't have a visit. Quiet period is just on campus. Evaluation is when they may come and watch you play at high school or club program. And a contact period is when basically all the kind of communication can take place. Official visit is when you come to campus and the campus pays for it in full or part. They may pay for your transportation, they may pay for your lodging, your meals, etc. As I mentioned before, you must be registered with the Eligibility Center and have a transcript on file. You're allowed 5 total, only 1 per school, but 5 total. So, you might be asked by 10 schools to visit, but you're can only go to 5 on an official visit. An unofficial, the college doesn't pay for anything, you pay for it. But you have unlimited amounts of unofficial visits. Both of these can't start for most sports until junior year. National letter of intent, as Mr. Harrison said before, there were some people that committed. You may have signed a national letter of intent, which is a binding one-year agreement. It's between you and the institution. You agree that you will attend there for at least one full academic year, and they're committed to you for one full academic year. It is in conjunction with an athletic scholarship. And it ends the recruiting process. So if you're being recruited by multiple schools and you sign a national letter of intent with one school in particular, then you're done. You've terminated your recruiting relationship with the other schools. So that's everything from my presentation. I think we'll have questions at the end, but briefly, what I just wanted to share with you in regards to some of the exceptions, which I mentioned a little bit, were these test scores. At this point, students that are entering college in fall of 2022 are not required to submit an ACT or SAT score. If you've taken it and you do submit it, that is fine, but you are not required to. Going forward, they may require that again, so keep that in mind. The other exception that they have in place right now is the core courses. You remember that I told you that you could fulfill one core course after graduation. The exception that is in place is that you can fulfill 6 core courses after 7th semester. So 7th semester is midway of your senior year. From that point on, up until you attend the college, full-time enrollment, you can take 6 courses to meet that requirement. So they've extended and they've kind of given you a little bit more opportunity. It's not 1, but now 6. So they have a couple of other minor exceptions that are in place, but basically it's just kind of in timing and so forth. You still got to get that 16. You still have to meet all of their requirements. If you don't meet the outright requirements that I just shared with you, your account will say that you're a non-qualifier. However, right next to it, it's going to say that you got the COVID waiver. So don't get nervous if you see that non-qualifier, because everybody gets nervous when they see that. But with all these exceptions in place, most students are still meeting that. You just got to look at the column right next to it, and it'll tell you that the automatic waiver has been put into place. But if you ever have questions as you're going through this process, especially once you've committed to a particular institution, the compliance office at that institution can help guide you through that as well. So, and the coach that has been recruiting you. So, the helping relationship doesn't just stop in high school. It carries on to wherever you're attending. And they can help you as you kind of, ease into the end of your high school career.
Thanks so much, Liz. I'm going to jump in, and I have a resource sheet that I just want to share with everybody. Let's see, I'm going to share my screen, see how this goes. So I'm also going to put this in the chat. I'm going to say the first thing you should do. Here's the QR code for NFA's Google website. We've got a lot of NCAA information, especially pertaining to Newburgh in particular. On this website is Charting Your Course, where we have the complete course catalog, lots of graduation information as well. We actually have, it shows the list of NCAA approved courses. And then obviously we list the Eligibility Center website as well. But if you do click here, let's see. So these are the simple resources right here. Basically everything that Ms. Donohue said, basic COVID updates as well. This could be something helpful. It's a grading scale. So you can convert your 87. One other thing, I think that's good for right now. So like I said, this is linked right off of the NFA guidance website, and I'm going to throw the link in the chat.
This will also be placed on the athletic website as well. So you will definitely be able to find the resources as well on the athletic website too. Okay, what we're going to go through next is Mr. Brown's going to speak. After Mr. Brown's done speaking, then we will have a question and answer session. Mr. Jemiah Brown.
All right, am I all good? Thumbs up, we're good.
We're good to go, Mr. Brown. Let's
Right,
go.
awesome. So, guys, I don't know what happened. I guess, my passion and energy just knocked something out of socket. So please bear with me as I am where we left off. I'm going to pour into you. But before we start off, I really want to talk about where we left off. And where we left off was, I mentioned that oftentimes when you look at people, every single one of you on this call at the high school level, there's someone that you aspire to be. There's a dream that you have. There's a goal that you want to accomplish. And oftentimes when we look at individuals such as celebrities, when we look at people who are in the NFL or in the NBA or MLB, we tend to think that they've always been there, right? So when you look at the gentleman on the screen and you see him, I want you to understand that that gentleman on the screen was not always there. That gentleman on the screen one day, he wasn't on a Zoom call, but he was in an auditorium. And he was in an auditorium during his college readiness. We're his athletic director. So shout out to Mr. Howie for putting this together and the amazing staff of Newburgh and facilitating this. Because I remember being in your shoes. I remember being in your shoes, wondering how I was going to get the sport of football to pay for my education, right? Because oftentimes, like I said, people assume that Jeremiah Brown has always been there. They assume that LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Stephen Curry, you name it, has always been there. And the actuality is, they've gone through things, and those things that you're going to embark on, those things that you're going to go through is what we're going to talk about today. So when we think about Jeremiah Brown and we think about the author, the speaker, the educator, the entrepreneur, I would say that those things do not define me. I would say that my identity is shaped and formed in what God has called me to do, and that is to be a father. That is to be a husband. That is to be a servant to our youth through the work that I do with my organization, the Leader NYC. But like I said, I wasn't always here. And what led me there was me having a goal of one day attending college, playing college football on a scholarship with the hopes that it would get paid for through the game of football. I sat in that auditorium and I thought about one day playing in the NFL and removing my family from poverty, moving my family from a financial situation where we really didn't know how we were going to do certain things when it pertained to just enjoying life. And I knew that I wanted to make an impact on this world. I knew I wanted to make an impact on this world that will live outside of myself. So in 2012, I graduated from Wagner College. I was blessed and fortunate enough to earn 2 degrees for free, one in sociology and one in education. And when I say I've earned those degrees for free, because I went to college on a full ride Division I scholarship to play football. And if you asked me back in 2004, 2005, who was Jeremiah Brown, I would have said I was a football player. I would have said I'm a football player who's going to the NFL one day. So if I was to ask some of you on this call, who are you? You might say I'm a basketball player. You might say that I'm someone who's going to make it to the league. I'm someone who's going to make millions of dollars, and I'm going to be extremely successful. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to challenge you to think a little bit deeper, right? Because what I didn't know and what you now know, and I don't want you to miss this, I want you to write this down, is that the sport that you play is what you do, not who you are. And I had no idea. But I knew I had a dream of one day playing in the NFL. So in 2012, I was blessed with the opportunity to sign an undrafted deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars, living my dreams, making millions of dollars and providing for my family. But I was forced to retire. I was forced to retire due to injury. And that led me to my career in education, in which the past 10 years, I've served the New York City Department of Education as a teacher, school administrator, a coach. And in doing those things, it's what really formed the work that I do today. Next slide, Kelly. And that is the Leader NYC. The Leader NYC is a nonprofit organization, certified minority business enterprise, in which our mission is to empower the next generation of purpose-driven leaders, one student at a time. And everyone on this call, the goal, if you aren't already, to be a purpose-driven leader. So you're probably asking yourself, like, what is purpose? What is driven? What does leadership mean when we put it all together? Now, these are some of the partners that we've been fortunate enough to work with, from the New York Knicks, the National Football League, New York City Department of Education, Squarespace, and the New York Urban League, just to name a few. So as we dive to the next slide, I just have some Zoom norms, just because what I'm about to do is I'm about to pour into not just your ears, but your heart. So I want you to stay engaged. I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to ask you things that's going to require you to type into the chat, to really wake up and really to identify with who you are, especially as it relates to outside of the sport that you play. I'm going to ask that you open your hearts. I'm going to ask that you take notes, and I'm going to ask that you buckle up, because we're about to go on a ride. So when we think about the leader advantage, the power of embracing the dream, that dream being your goal. So I'm going to ask you right now really quick, what's one word that describes your dream? And if you can right now, I would like for you to type it in the chat. One word that will describe what your dream is. So for me, it's freedom. Coaches, educators, administration, you are definitely welcome to type in the chat. Equality, I love it. Knowledge, I love it. Flexibility, focus. Friends, peace, success, motivation. There we go. Momentum. I love it. Successful. I'm going to take two more. Hard work. There we go. So when we think about the word dream, when we think about our dream, when we think about these words of hard work, success, determination, I really want us to think about, do we embody and does our behavior align with the word that we put in the chat? Because it's easy to have a dream. It's easy to wake up and say, I'm going to work hard. But does your behavior each and every day when you wake up align with the word that you said? Does it align with who it is that you say you want to be? Because what I've realized, and I've realized this when people ask me all the time, like, Jeremiah, how did you make it to the NFL? Jeremiah, how did you get your education paid for? Jeremiah, how did you make millions of dollars playing a game? How did you do it? And oftentimes what they think is, they think that it was just because I lifted a lot of weight, I ran really fast, and I showed up to practice. But I was like, no, actually it was because my education, the endurance of me watching film, the endurance of me being in class on time, me doing the work, me doing not just what was required, but doing more than what was required. That's how I was able to make it to the league. That's how I was able to make my dreams a reality. That's how I was able to transition out of playing a sport, out of doing something that I was extremely passionate about. That is how I was able to do it, by not doing what was required, but by doing more than what was required. So when we think about this, and we think about, we go to the next slide. I want to ask you all a question. I want to ask you really quick, are you ready to jump towards your goal, your dream, the word that you put in the chat? So really quick, I just want you, if you've already participated, I want you to type, I'm ready. And I'm going to type, I'm ready in all caps. Here we go, Jaden. Here we go, Lewis. Here we go, Kayla. Here we go, Alexandria, Jordan. Exactly, I'm ready, right? So when I said buckle up, I'm asking you because I said you're about to jump towards your dream. So now I'm going to ask you a question really quick. And the question that I'm going to ask you is, are you ready to jump out of an airplane? Are you ready to jump out of an airplane towards your goals? Now you're not going to necessarily respond to this question, because some of you may say I'm ready. Some of you may, like me, might be scared of heights. But I'm really asking you, are you ready to jump and really risk not going to parties? Are you really willing to risk the fear of what may go wrong? Are you willing to risk proving those who doubt you wrong? That's a question that I have for you. But now, are you ready to jump without a parachute? Are you ready to jump from 20,000 feet in the air without a parachute? Are you still ready? Now, some of you are like, this dude is crazy. This dude just asked me, am I willing to jump out of an airplane without a parachute? I'm going to go ahead and agree with you. I am crazy because I wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even jump out of an airplane without a parachute. But I want you to catch this. I really want you to catch this, because what's about to happen is you're about to realize that in actuality, some of you are doing this every single day, and I was someone who did that. Now, I didn't jump out of an airplane without a parachute, but what I did was I wrote down a goal. And that goal was I wanted to go to college for free, but I was missing school. I wasn't doing my work. I didn't believe in myself. I committed myself to everyone who said that they didn't believe in me, everyone who said that they doubted me, everyone who said that I was too small, I was too fast, I wasn't fast enough. I committed myself to them as opposed to really committing myself to the people who believed in me. So the goals that I wrote down of me going to college for free, my behavior didn't align with it. So what I did was I kept removing myself further and further away from the goal. So like many of you right now, you were ready to jump to your goal. You all wrote down something that you want to accomplish. I'm sure each and every one of you are on this call because you want to go to college. You want to compete. You want to be a priority on someone's campus. So let's clear the air. A scholarship does not necessarily define you. Going to college and playing sports does not define you. But what it does is it places you as a priority on someone's campus. I wanted a scholarship not because I want to go to NFL. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was going to the league. I wanted to get my education paid for so I could be a priority on someone's campus, so that they would take the time to make sure that I was in class, because there were times where I didn't really trust myself. Like many of you don't trust yourself. So when we think about jumping out of a plane without a parachute, I want you to now think about not only writing a goal, but ensuring that your behavior aligns with your goal. Because oftentimes we tend to do this. Now, the power of embracing your dream and your goal, I'm going to give you the framework of how to do so. The framework on how to not only embrace your dream, but to align your behavior. Your behavior to the dream is what's most important. And that's identifying your why. That's identifying your process. That's identifying your performance and identifying your outcome. So don't miss it. I need you to write this down. So when we think about identifying your why, I really want to just share something with you right now. And my why is so compelling. My why is what drives me. My why is why there was nobody that could stand in front of me that could beat me. There was nobody that could stand in front of me and beat me, because you know what? My mother was willing to risk her last dime in order for me to play the game of football. Now you think I'm lying. You think this is probably something that you've heard before. Now I just want to take you on a quick journey. And that journey that I'm getting ready to take you to is that journey of my mother sending me to the ATM one time. My mother sent me to the ATM. Now, my mother was a school safety agent. She was a security guard. My mother didn't really make that much money, but what my mother did was she made sure that me and my little brother didn't need for or want for anything. So there's one time it cost roughly around $450 to play football. Now, I know some of you on this call, you can feel me on that, right? The dues that you got to pay to play the sport that you love. Sometimes you got it, sometimes you don't. It costs $450 for me to play the game of football. Now follow me. I'm playing the game of football and I say, Mom, I need $450 in order for me to play this sport. My mom said, son, here's my ATM card. You're going to go to the ATM. You're going to put in my code and you're going to take out the $450. Now I'm like, bet. My mom got that bag. My mom got that bag. So I know she works 70, 80 hours a week. Me and my little brother don't want for nothing. And it was that day that I realized what poverty actually meant. Right? See, we talked about it in the textbooks. I saw it on TV. I knew walking up a staircase and it was pissy and seeing drug dealers on the block. I knew that wasn't okay, but my mother didn't make me want for anything. So I just knew that we wasn't in poverty. That wasn't us, but we were. And I realized it the day I put the ATM in the machine. And when I put her digits in, it said, did you want a receipt? I said, absolutely. I want to see how much money my mom got. I got a Christmas coming up. I need to make sure that, you feel me, I get the next J's. So I said, receipt, boom. I got $450 in my right hand. I have a receipt in my left hand. And in that receipt, it said negative $275. Now, back in 2003, 2004, debit cards wasn't accessible as they are now. So I thought I did something wrong. I said, damn, I messed this one up. My mom gonna kill me, but I got the $450, so I'm good to play on a team. I go home, I said, Mom, you gotta call your bank. There's an issue. I got the money, but it's saying you got negative $275. My mom didn't even look at me. I said, Mom, the bank said that you have negative $275. She said, I know. I said, what you mean you know? She said, son, sit down. And as I walked into the kitchen, I sat down. My mother sat down next to me. Now, in my 16 years of living, I've never saw my mother cry. And it was in that moment that my life changed forever. It was in that moment that my why became so compelling that there was no one that could stand in front of me that was going to tell me what I could or could not do. Because there are people in your life who are telling you what you can't do based on the situation that you live in, based on the poverty or the privilege that you were born into. Now, I knew at that very day that I might have been born into poverty, but I wasn't going to die living in poverty because I had a choice. Now, my mother didn't have a choice. My mother didn't have a choice. Go to the next slide. My mother didn't have a choice because of what was called redlining. Now, some of you may not really know what redlining means. Now, redlining means that at some point in our time, the government sat down, they laid out a map, and they literally took a red marker and they outlined certain neighborhoods and areas. And I happened to be born in an area that was redlined. My mother is a reflection of someone who grew up in a situation where systems were placed against her to succeed. So when you think about that, my mother did not have a choice. My mother did not have a choice because she had to do whatever she could do to try to defy the odds that were stacked against her. And let's call the elephant what it is because it's in the room. And the elephant in the room is that we're still dealing with these systemic issues. We're still dealing with it to this day. So when you look at this redlining, and when I think about my mother not having a choice and having to work more than 70 hours a week, some of you on this call are a reflection of that, and some of you aren't. So when we think about culture, when we think about legacy, when we think about leadership, it's extremely important that we understand where we all come from, because this is where I come from. I come from a situation where every single time I left the projects, people told me what I could not do. And it wasn't because they didn't believe in me. It was because of what their reality was. So anytime someone tells you what you cannot do, don't think about it, because it is not about you. It is about what they could not do. So people told me that I wasn't going to go to college for free because I'm from the hood. People told me I wasn't going to go to the NFL because I'm from the hood. People told me that I was going to become a drug dealer or be on the block, play the block, whatever it was, because that's what they did. They tried to let their limitations in the box that they had. Now, let me tell you something about a box. A box is built for things, not people. You're not going to put me in a box, because a box is something that we pack and we ship. I'm not going to live in a box. Now, there are people who live in boxes that you see on this redlining, and my mother was someone who lived in it. And because she did not have a choice at that day, when I sat at that table, I realized that I have a choice. I have a choice to make with the investment that my mother made on me. Go to the next slide, Caleb. So when I think about my why, and I think about what my mother said to me that day, as she looked at me and a tear wiped down her face and she said, Jeremiah, I knew exactly what I had in my account. What I wasn't sure was if the bank was actually going to allow you to withdraw more than I actually had in my account. But there's one thing that I'm not going to ever do, is I'm not going to allow my current situation to hinder the goals and aspirations that you have. So, hey, Newberg, you have parents, you have coaches, you have educators who have poured into you, who have created spaces for you, virtual spaces to pour into you. People who believe in you, people who have taken resources from other places to pour into you. The same way my mother sacrificed for me, it may not have been negative $275 in her account, but for you, it might look something different. It might be, man, COVID wiped out my family. Man, I gotta work. I gotta provide for my family. I can't even really go to school most days because I just got off my shift. COVID really impacted me, and I really don't know what I'm gonna do, because now I'm trying to do things and I have the ability to play at a higher level. I have the ability to help my team. I have the ability to do some things based on the talents that God has blessed me with, and I have the support of people who are around me, but my reality is I can't do it. So my mother, I'm sitting at that table and my mother said, Jeremiah, I'm never going to let my current situation dictate. I said, at that very day, there won't be anyone who is going to tell me what I can or cannot do, because it wasn't necessarily about me making my mother proud. My mother was already proud of me. So if you're on this chat and you're thinking like, I'm doing what I'm doing, I want to go to college because I want to make my parents proud of me, I want to make my coaches proud of me, they're already proud of you. That's not strong enough. So if you're sitting on this call because I want to go to college and make my parents proud, they're already proud of you. Your coaches are already proud of you. So that why is not strong enough. because there were people in front of me. Because if I'm going to tell you one thing, and that's about the process, and that process is you're not the only one who wants what you want, Newberg. You're not. You're not the only person who wants to go to college for free. You're not the only person who wants to take their parents out of a struggle. You're not the only person who wants to buy their mother a home. You're not the only person. So what you have to realize is if you want A and I want A, and my mother gave me her last dime, and you want to just make people proud, oh, when we get faced with that opportunity, there's absolutely no way you're going to step in front of me and take what is called for me. So I need you to understand that, because the process in which you have to go to do what it is that you say you want is doing the work. Now, this is where it gets a little bit choppy, because Newberg, there's some athletes on this call. There are some athletes on this call who believe that because they're so talented, they don't really have to do the work of showing up every single day and applying the same level of intensity towards their academics that they do their athletics. Now, I'm here to tell you, Newberg, a kid like me is your worst nightmare, because you're relying on your talent and I'm relying on my will to do more than what is required. And when we think about doing more than what is required in the process, that is doing the work. That is showing up each and every day with the same level of intensity. When you leave the school, what will they remember you as? Will they remember you as someone who scored a lot of touchdowns and almost helped us win a championship? Or will they remember you as someone who shifted the culture? Someone who was so good in terms of their leadership that we don't even operate the same way anymore because of what they did to this program. That's the type of person that we need to be in the process, and that's doing the work. When we think about the why, when we think about the process, I need you to think about your performance, right? Because as an educator, oftentimes kids would submit work and it's like, well, I submitted the work. I completed my NCAA certification. I played, but what's the quality of your film? What's the quality of your homework? What's the quality of your attendance in the classroom? Because some of you just show up. Some of you are just happy with just showing up and just being in the room. Now I'm telling you, the goals that you set, the information that you just obtained, you are not the only one who's getting the information, and you're not the only one with the goals. So are you willing to understand what your why is? Are you willing to understand to do the work in the process? And are you willing to perform? Are you willing to provide a high quality of work each and every day? Because why you do what you do will always impact how you do what you do. And I don't want you to forget that. I don't want you to lose that. So I need you to write that down. Why you do what you do will always impact how you do what you do. My why is what fueled me to commit. So I'm asking you right now, Newberg, what's fueling you to commit to your dreams? And you don't have to type it in the chat. If you want to, that'd be great. But I want you to really take 30 seconds really quick to ask yourself a question. What's fueling me to commit to the dreams and aspirations that I said that I want for myself? And if all you're thinking about is, oh, I just hired a trainer so I can get faster and run a faster 40, but you forgot to hire a tutor, hey, your behavior is not in line with what you say you want. Because I'm here to tell you, your academics mean way more than your athletics will mean. Oh, so as I'm saying this to you, I can't see you all, but I've worked in education long enough to know that I'm getting some funny faces. I'm getting, this dude don't know what he's talking about. I'm going to the league. My GPA don't really need to be like that. I know I need to pass my classes, but he don't know what he's talking about. I do. I know what I'm talking about, because in 2012, what happened, 2013, what happened to me is what you keep telling yourself won't happen to you. And that was the doctor telling me, Jeremiah Brown, you'll never be able to play the game of football again. And I said, what do you mean? I'll never be able to play the game of football again. He said, sir, you've obtained your 6th concussion in the past 4 years. So let me tell you why I'm a little bit different when it comes to playing sports and when it comes to achieving dreams. Most of you that play sports, you've been playing sports your entire life. I started playing sports when I got to high school. I started playing football in the 9th grade, knew nothing about the game. So from the 9th grade till I got to the NFL, I've been playing football roughly 10 years at that time. So in that 10-year span, I obtained 6 concussions because I was a hard hitter. And that's all I wanted to do was just knock you out the game. And it was good. But the doctor told me what your teachers ask you, what happens when you get injured? What your mommy and daddy ask you, what happens when you can't play anymore? And your response is typically, I'm gonna be able to play. It's gonna be okay. But the doctor told me in 2013, 2014, what I thought I'd never hear, and that was, Jeremiah, you'll never be able to play the game again. And I went down a really deep depression. And I really went down a deep depression because my performance on how I showed up every day shifted. Because my identity was that I played the game of football and that's who I was. That is what I did and that was who I was. So when we think about that process, when we think about that performance, I need you to understand that you are more than an athlete. Now, here's why. You were more than an athlete because every single thing you have been called to do on this earth lies outside of the sport that you play. I don't care if you make it to the NFL. At some point, if you make it to the MLB, the NBA, college for free, the ball will stop bouncing. And what will you have when the ball stops bouncing? When there are no more touchdowns to score, when there are no more autographs to sign, who will you be? Now, in 2013, I had no idea who I was. I was lost. I was depressed. I went from making millions of dollars to providing for my family to looking in the mirror and almost committing suicide. See, now you think it's a game. And you think it's a game because you're sitting here and you can see what I'm saying, but you can't feel it. Right? And because you can't feel it, you don't really understand the level in which I'm really getting at right now. And the level in which I'm getting at right now is your performance on how you show up each and every day has to exceed the athletic side of what you do. But you have to tap into the skills and the gifts that you have from an academic standpoint, because if you don't, I'm here to tell you what happened to me is a very scary situation. And there are people, unfortunately, that I know personally that are no longer with us because it was that real for them that they took their life. And what I want to ensure is that no one, I've committed my life to this, is making sure that no one, including the Newburgh community, every single student athlete on this call understands. And if you don't, I need you to reach out. If you do not know who you are outside of this sport, I'm going to give you a tool. And I'm going to give you a free tool. And that tool is going to be designed. It's from the Leader Advantage daily planner that me and my team had constructed. And this daily planner was designed to support the social emotional needs of you as student athletes and equipping you with the structure and the framework to have intentionality on how you approach each day. And how you approach each day with understanding how you speak to yourself. Guys, I need you to understand something. The scholarships that you want to earn, the people that you want to prove wrong, you got to shift your mentality. Because it's not about proving the people wrong. It's about proving everybody who believes in you right. My motive was not to prove the people on the block wrong. So at the end of the day, they still on the block. My goal was to prove everybody right who believed in me, including my mother, including my little brother, including my coaches, including my teachers who believed in me, who provided a safe space for me. That's what it's about. So I need you to understand, don't miss it. Don't miss it, write it down. When you are working towards your goal, it is not about proving people wrong. It is about proving everyone who believes in you right. Because when you take that approach, it allows you to just focus on what's important. And that is you not letting the sport identify you, but you helping and using the sport as a vehicle. The sport that you play is not who you are, it's what you do. I'm going to say it again. The sport that you play is not who you are, it's what you do. And what you do is you play a sport, and that sport will be your vehicle. So when we think about the Leader Advantage, when we think about what that actually means, my entire identity on this earth, I truly believe God has called me to do some amazing things. And one of the things that he called me to do was he called me to make sure the next generation is set up to have an advantage. And that advantage is understanding your personal goals, understanding why you have these personal goals, but also having the framework to understand that with every goal that you have, we spoke about this, there's a process in which you have that. And you see here on this screen that the process does not just say athletic process. It does not just say performance process. It says academic process. What is your outcome? And this framework is designed to help you navigate this difficult process and journey that you are going through, because I'll say it again and I'll bring it full circle. You look at LeBron, you look at Michael Jordan, you look at Steph Curry, you look at Jay-Z, you look at Beyonce, you look at Serena Williams, and you think to yourself like, man, I want to be like them one day. But let me ask you a question. You want to be what they have, but do you really want to be who they are? Because what they went through to become who they are, if you really knew, you might not be up for the task. So when you're looking at a goal, when you're looking at someone who has something that you want to attain, I need you to not look at what they obtained. I need you to start asking the right questions. And the right question is, what did you have to go through, Jeremiah, in order to obtain this goal? I get that you're there, but what did you have to endure? And what I had to endure, ladies and gentlemen, was I had to endure people telling me my entire life what I could not do. I had to endure watching my mother struggle to pay bills, working 70+ hours a day. What I had to endure was wearing the same sneakers and not necessarily knowing if I was able to even have dinner when I came home because my mother was always at work. Right? This is what my reality was. Right? Like, you don't get evicted from the projects. Right? Like, you just don't get evicted from the projects, but we got evicted from the projects. Right? Like, that just don't happen. Right? Because the rent is already low. Right? But my pops wasn't really around. So when you think about what I had to go through and you think about what everyone else had to go through, I need you to understand something, that this tool that you see on the screen is a tool and a resource to help you navigate the process in which you have goals. So in closing, you're going to have an opportunity to download this free resource right now. So you can take out your cell phones and you can scan this QR code. You can scan this QR code and it's going to ask you to put your email in. Once you put your email in, it's going to directly send you the free resource of this PDF print. I'm going to ask that after you put your email in and it's sent to your email, don't open it up right now because I'm not done yet. And I don't want you to miss what's to come. This resource is to help you. So we're going to take the next 30 seconds to, we put the steps on what you're going to need to do in the chat. So step 1, scan the QR code. The bit.ly is there. If you don't necessarily have a cell phone, you're going to enter your email. You're going to download the pages to help you towards your goal. Now that's step 3. I want you to download that once we get off the call. As long as you see it in your mailbox, it will be there and it won't go anywhere. So once it's there, I need you to just make sure that you are fully locked in here. But I didn't want to get off this call without giving you something to really help you, because I could sit here and pour into you. I could sit here and give you all of these passions in the story, because I wish it was in person, but it's cool. We here. But I wanted to leave that with you and I wanted to give you that resource. Now, with that being said, if you go to the next slide, Akela, I need you to snapshot this. I need you to write this down. I need this to be something that you think about every single day, Newberg, and all my student athletes. Every single day you step foot into the school that you attend, the community in which you live. I need you to stop thinking about just attending and existing, and I need you to start thinking about serving. And when I say serving, I don't mean opening the door for someone. I don't mean saying good morning. These are all great things and things that I'm sure that you're doing. But leadership is about developing positive character. It is about not just showing up for what it is that you say you want, but actually doing more than what is required. Remaining calm through adversity. Hey, we got some athletes on this call that lost a tough game. I was rooting for you. I was hoping Coach Hobby, he could give me a ring. You feel me? Give me some hardware. But hey, fellas, it's a part of the process. You being able to remain calm through that adversity and understanding who you are and the opportunity that you have, because you've inspired some people within this community. You've inspired some people, and I need you to know something, that the work that you put in will not go out in vain. And for every other athlete that's not necessarily experiencing all the wins right now and experiencing losses, it's in those losses that we get that feedback on what we need to do better and how we need to approach this the next time around, and discerning failure as feedback. because you losing that game does not define you as losers. Yeah, you're not the champions. And that's understandable. That I've lost championship games myself, but it's that feedback of you listening and saying, how do I learn from this situation and grow through it? Communicating efficiently and having the self-efficacy and vision to lead those around you positively, because there are people on this call who are leaders. There are people on this call who are leading, but the question is, are you leading through positivity? Are you leading through service of ensuring that your community is well taken care of? From the people who pack the lunches to the people who welcome you each morning and the people who are educating you each and every day and the communities in which you live in. Are you showing up with a service mentality, or I'm just here to be here? And whatever you could do for me, it's a benefit for me, or are you adding value? You go to the next slide. So as we come to a close, I really want to leave this with you. When you someone living a dream that you aspire to live, what you're seeing are the fruits of someone's labor. You're seeing the end result. So social media, everything that you have, everything that you see, it's a highlight reel. People with 5 stars, people going to colleges. What you're seeing is the end result, not the hours of preparation. What you don't see is the failed attempts on social media. The late nights, the early mornings, the people telling you it's not possible. So what I need you to do is I need you to shift your mentality, Newberg. Don't ever call me lucky. Don't ever call anybody that you see doing things well lucky, because it's not luck. I prayed for this. I sacrificed for this. I chose discipline over getting likes. I chose discipline over skipping school and not doing the right thing. I chose discipline. I chose doing more than what is required. So don't ever call me lucky. Don't ever call anyone else lucky. Yeah, they might be blessed. I'm blessed. But I prayed for this. I sacrificed it. I was disciplined for this. I was willing to do more than what was required day in and day out. So when you see someone living their dreams, when you see someone doing what it is that you say you want, I need you to understand that they did more than what was required. And if they did it, and their talent got them that, because let's talk about it. There are people who are obtaining scholarships because they're talented. But those same people won't be people who keep their scholarships. Obtaining something is good enough, and that's your talent. But your character is what allows you to stay in the door. So when we think about that code, when we think about how you show up, I need you to understand something, Newberg. You got an opportunity, and that opportunity is something that has never happened before. We're on a call at 7:24 in the evening to set you up for success, to allow you as a leader in your community to have an advantage. The leader advantage. I don't just say it, I live it. And I need you to just understand and just follow me. That who it is that you say you want to be, what it is that you say you want to become. Ask yourself this question. Does my behavior align with who and what I say I want to be and want to do? Newberg, Mr. Howie, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. I wish that this was in person, but we're here because I want to see their faces. But everyone, if you were inspired today, if there was anything that I said that shifted something inside of you, you can scan this QR code and it has my information from social media to YouTube to whatever it is that you might need to get through a tough situation. And there are also resources to reach out to me in the event that you just need some additional support in addition to the great work that's already being provided at your school. Please reach out. Howie, Mr. Philip Howard, Thomas, everyone on this call, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to serving this community in the near future and being a part of the great work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Donohue. Oh man, Mr. Brown, this has been great. Mr. Hill, Mr. McAllister, everybody who's on this call. So what we're gonna do now, just glad everyone's here. And thank you guys again. If we were in person, I'd be giving you a standing, both of you standing ovation, give you a little standing O. But hopefully next time, our next one, we can do it in person and really get a chance to reach a lot more families and scholars in the community. And I can't really thank you enough and what this means to Newburgh to have you on here sharing this information and resources to our families. Thank you once again. So we will open this up for some questioning. We got people on the panel. We got Ms. Donohue, Mr. Brown, Mr. McAllister, and Mr. Hill. Questions regarding NCAA, anything you want to ask? Cassie, what are we going to do? Are we going to type in the chat?
Sure, everyone can type in the chat. You may want to just make sure you're selecting to chat with everybody, or you can chat with just the hosts.
Okay. Once again, we're open for questions for a little bit, and thank you again. I can't thank you guys enough for this information, this resources, stories. Oh man. So a question, we're opening for questioning. No. They were good. No questions. Wow. I mean, they were really good and inspiring. I love it. Anybody have any questions, follow-ups?
It was definitely a lot of information covered, especially Ms. Donohue's with that's the nuts and bolts of it. I'm sure as people are thinking about it, they're going to get more questions if, over the next few days. Like Ms. Donohue said, check in with your counselor, email them directly. They'll get the answers for you.
And I just wanted to reiterate what Mr. Hill shared repeats what I said. So all those resources that are available to you through the school will highlight all of the requirements specific to the, from the NCAA. So, it's right at your fingertips. All of the information is there. And again, that applies to any institution. So all Division I institutions follow the Division I criteria. All Division II institutions follow that criteria. So you don't have to worry about school specific, it's division specific.
And so this will be put on the website. You guys will be able to, this will be recorded. You'll be able to see everything that was presented, resources that was shared. Also, what Mr. Hill shared, the resource page that will be on guidance website, athletic website as well. And we have a question in the chat, and that was from Mr. Howard. What do you feel is the biggest obstacles preventing our children from being great?
I think just a simple idea of being good enough. And good enough isn't going to do it. Just like Mr. Brown was saying, it's not good enough.
And I think the biggest thing is just what he said, aligning our behaviors to our goals and to our why, and really pushing through.
Can I also answer that, sir?
Yes, sir.
When I think about, just that's a phenomenal question, by the way. And, what I would really say, I'm not sure if that was an educator or a student who asked that great question, is themselves. I would say that the greatest feat that our youth are facing isn't any external measure, but more so internal on how they speak to themselves, on how they communicate, and the environment in which they surround themselves in. These are all factors that are in their control. Now, there are things that are out of our control, such as the school you may go to, if it's your district or where have you, the family in which you were born in, even the classroom that you attend, right? You can't.
He must have got disconnected again. Hopefully he'll jump back on. We still have some questions. And Ms. Macon, if Mr. Brown gets back on, he'll be able to recommend some books for our student athletes, self-help and inspirational stuff as well. So I'll make sure I get that question to him.
And Mr. Howard's got another question. He's busy.
Yep.
How
it's a
early?
great question.
So how
Very-
early? NCAA starts looking at it as early as those high school credited courses that are offered in 8th grade.
Yes.
But how early? Kindergarten. But the better the base of academics you have, the more prepared you're going to be when you do start taking those high school credit courses. It's never going to be early enough.
I agree, because the earlier you can plant the seed, it'll give it more time to germinate and grow, give them the proper nutrients.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Questions? That's all right.
Happy that it didn't cut through my speech, but yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, everything I said, that's essentially what I meant.
There's a question from Victoria for you, Mr. Brown. What books do you recommend for our student athletes? Any self-help, inspirational?
Hey, my book is coming out 2022.
That was you that posted that question.
Yeah, my book is coming out 2022. It is a book with the mission of equipping you to be a legacy leader. And a legacy leader is someone who impacts the community with legacy and leadership in mind at the forefront. Now, granted, that's not out yet. So a book that I would recommend that I've read that was life-changing, because I think oftentimes that, you know, we associate what we do with the sport that we play. And that question was a great question, but I really want you to understand that like who you are when you show up as an athlete has a lot to do with more internally who you are as opposed to physically what you can do. So a book that I would recommend is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Probably one of the greatest books, and it's a fairly easy read. It really talks about habit formation and just showing up despite what is going on externally in your life. So Atomic Habits by James Clear. Like I said, how you do anything is how you do everything. So your habits and your routine will definitely help you just further, not just athletics, but, you know, holistically who you are.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Mr. Howard. We'll unmute you. You have a question? You have your hand raised?
Can you hear me?
We can now, yes.
All right, great. I just want to thank everybody for participating and being a part of this. So I have a question for Mr. Brown, because I want to really zero in and drill down on some of the things that he spoke about, and understanding that being an athlete, that's not who you are, it's what you do. But understanding also the environment that our young boys and girls grow up in. Like, how do you start that conversation early? Understanding that a lot of our children do not have the support systems at home that we assume is going to start that conversation early. How do we as a school district get that as a narrative that we have with our young boys and girls, that it's not what you do, it's not who you are, it's what you do. And to really match up your dream to your actions. How do we do that?
Man, that's a phenomenal question. And I've served to the capacity of dean of culture and students the past 3 years. You know, I've been in education for about 10 years now. And a lot of the work in addressing that question is this. Oftentimes as adults, we believe that our kids should know right from wrong. And what I've realized is that our students are all coming from different worlds. Every single person on this chat, all 64 people currently on are coming. We live in the same atmosphere, but we all live in completely different worlds. We come from different worlds and walks and so and that forth. What we have to do is we have to set our kids up for success by helping them identify who the right people in their life are, right? So, and compartmentalizing. Right. So like my dad was not someone that I could necessarily rely on, but he was someone who showed up every now and then, but I could not rely on him financially for certain things. Right. So I had to, you know, and through the Leader Advantage Planner and the resources that you'll get in that planner, you'll see framework on setting students up for success by what I call village. And really teaching the importance of a village. Our kids hear it. We grew up on it. It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to support a community. But do our kids know their village? Do some of us as adults even know what our village is? Do we know who we can lean on financially when we need to pay for, camp or for college? Do we know who we can lean on for inspiration? Do we know who we can have difficult conversations with? Do we even know who we can position ourselves to be around when we need to do the right thing? And I know from what I've realized just in my experience of like being an athlete, from, being in education, from teacher to administrator, that when I was able to set my students up and getting them to say, hey, this is your village. Who motivates you when you need motivation? We need to identify this person. Who is your financial support when you need something? We need to identify this person. We need to identify these people within your village, not just say you need to be in a better environment, but identify the people based on who you are, the life that you live, the people that you have around you. Let's identify who they are and let's compartmentalize them. Because when we can get our youth to understand, like my mom, oh man, she's amazing, but my mom financially can't support me. But so I need to figure out that in my situation, because oftentimes when you think about gang violence, when you think about all that's going on in the world and people surrounding themselves with people that don't align with their goals, it's because they're unclear of the role that this person plays in their life. Right? Like I know that this individual from the block, he is someone who, if I'm around at any moment, I could lose everything. Like I need to write this down. So to answer your question, Mr. Howard, it's really setting our kids up for success by walking them through how to identify who the people in their life are and the roles that they play, and communicating that to their families if their families have the proper emotional responses to deal with that tough conversation. But also us as educators knowing that, right? Like it gives you so much power in speaking to this kid's heart with the same level of intensity that you speak to their talent, by knowing, man, Jeremiah Brown, his motivation is me. So it's not me. I'm pouring into this kid, but I might need, Miss Donohue to pour into him, because he wrote Miss Donohue, when he speaks to her, man, it's just something about that. She just gets to his heart, like really identifying those things. And I can go on and on because I'm so passionate about this, but in a nutshell, really walking them through what their village is, who those people are in their village, and allowing them to internalize that and revisit it, because it changes and it shifts when we go to different seasons. So once we equip them, and I'll end on this. Sorry, I'll end on this. As a father, when I think about my son, and when I think about the kids in which we all serve, it is not necessarily about making sure they're in the right environment. It's about making sure that we equip them with the proper emotional responses so that when they're in the wrong environment, they still make the right choices. Because there are often times where we cannot control the external factors of what takes place. But if our kids and our babies understand how to respond to this situation and saying, this is not good, I need to be at practice or where I say I was going to be, because this is not going to lead. And even if it does, I'm aware. So, man, a lot of what we do in terms of workshops is we provide, this framework to school. So I would love to, talk about that, because as you can see, I could talk about this forever.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk, Mr. Brown. We already had a conversation about that. We're gonna continue to talk. We'll take a couple more questions. I know there was something in the chat. Mr. Brown, when you have all the success, how do you embrace it? Was someone asked.
Say that one more time, sir. I'm sorry.
When you have all of this success, how do you embrace it?
What I've realized that success is not external. For a long time, I was chasing the money. I have it, right? When I was chasing, I think oftentimes we tend to associate success with, so I would ask you, like, what is your definition of success really? And if it is external, likes and follows and money and all of those things, that is not what makes me successful. I would say what makes me successful is that I'm living my life's purpose and I'm doing what I truly feel I've been called to do. And that is outside of the sport that I play. So for me, handling it is just making sure that I have the proper emotional responses, when dealing with adversity, right? Because it's not easy, owning your own business. It's not easy, being a father, an educator, and all of these things that on the outside look and may be successful, but how I show up for each of those is really what, for me, is what determines, my level of success.
Thank you, thank you. Does anyone have any more questions? If not, it's about 7:40. I'll go give another minute. If no one has any questions, once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for listening, and especially thank you to the people on the panelists who presented. Like I said, I enjoyed it. I was excited to get this information to our families, just to get them in the know. And once again, thank you, thank you, thank you, and we really appreciate everything you've done on this panel. Just thank you everybody for being here. And if no more questions, please have a good, great, safe night. Appreciate you. Good night.